he was working with the SEC the whole time saying, hey, this is a software platform. Here's how it works. Here's what we're doing. He was demonstrating to them how it would work. But the whole time they were sabotaging his deals behind his back. And then 2 months ago, the SEC came out with these, it's a fraud, charged him with all these things. He was ready for it, had his lawyers send in a rebuttal that just destroyed the SEC's case.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and today it's the third and final part of my interview with Bix Weir of Road to Ruta. In this section, we're talking about Veritaseum and the fascinating case that's been going on. So even if you're not as much interested in cryptos, I think this ties into a lot of the other things that have been happening. So hit that subscribe button and enjoy. Perhaps our last topic today, fortunately, one of the folks who's been doing something about that, Reggie Middleton of Veritaseum, which you've talked long about. I had the pleasure of doing an interview with him last year. And again, I'm not a coder, so digging into the code is a little beyond me. Although I will say that having interviewed a lot of CEOs and successful people, Reggie sure seemed like one of the more impressive people I spoke with, not even just the financial stuff, but also just little things of how he talked about, the way he interacts with his employees, or just the small details you notice. So perhaps you could give folks a rundown, just a basic of what Veritaseum does, and then dig into these charges that are ongoing right now.
Well, Veritaseum is a cryptocurrency or crypto token. It's actually a software platform. That's what got him in trouble. It's a way for people to exchange assets without going through the exchanges, without dealing with broker dealers, the exchange at all. It's peer-to-peer asset transactions. So basically, you could take all those hedge funds in New York City and all those middlemen and scrape out all their massive overblown profits and deal with individuals trading assets between each other. The problem, he was one of the first cryptos to ICO before the SEC made any ruling about the DAO, which was, I think, in July of 2017. Reggie had already done his ICO. Nobody was interested in the coin. Only 2 million coins were picked up in the ICO out of, I think it was 100 million is the total float. And Reggie, he offered 51 million and nobody wanted any. I bought some because of Cliff High's work, and it made sense. I wanted a way to get rid of these exchanges that, lie, cheat, and steal. And Reggie's invention of a software platform that can do that was a way to get it done. And so since then, since his ICO, which raised only, I think, $14.5 million, he was working with the SEC the whole time saying, hey, this is a software platform. Here's how it works. Here's what we're doing. He was demonstrating to them how it would work. But the whole time they were sabotaging his deals behind his back. And then 2 months ago, the SEC came out with these, it's a fraud, charged him with all these things. He was ready for it, had his lawyers send in a rebuttal that just destroyed the SEC's case. Yeah. And the SEC, the guy who led the charge actually left. He left the SEC right before that came down. So there's a lot of dark.
SEC issued the charges?
The guy who was in charge of the going after the cryptocurrency ICOs left the SEC and obviously went to make his fortune. It was some law firm that's trying to, I don't even know what they're trying to do, but it is just interesting that someone made the call and said, okay, we're going to freeze all Reggie's assets. So it is in court right now. The trial hasn't started. As of yesterday, the day before, there was a filing, or I think the filing was Friday. It came out on Monday that there are negotiations to settle.
No.
And then people look at the Block 1 settlement for the EOS ICO, which was literally the most criminal ICO I've ever seen in my life. $4.5 billion that was basically recycling money back into its own ICO, and no audits, were given, even though they promised audits, all kinds of problems with that one. And they give them a 0.005 penalty, $24 million penalty on a $4.5 billion ICO. The SEC is completely fraudulent. I mean, they are in the pocket of someone. And given that Reggie's solution to the current problem of exchanges and criminal fees charged by banksters was so perfect, it was really, really something that could change the world. The SEC couldn't have that, or the people who told the SEC what to do. So we'll see how that all works out. I'm hoping the good guys, as I call them, get in there and say, hey, you gotta drop this stuff against Veritaseum, because we need Veritaseum in the world. We need it to fix the problem of our criminal exchanges. That's the short dollar tour, and it's real cheap. It's like $20 right now. Obviously, it almost doubled when the news came out that they're in settlement talks. But it's hard to get because none of the exchanges will allow it to be traded on their exchange, because they know that you can just use Veritaseum, not even use their exchanges.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it's one of my long shots. It'll either go to zero or $1 million a coin. If you're looking for a long shot, Veritaseum's the call.
Yeah, well, I'm ready for the $1 million a coin. That'd be good. Good over in the Marcus household here. You mentioned EOS, which I'd like to point out you were warning people about years ago, whether it's Tether and Bitfinex, whether it's the charges with silver that now the Department of Justice is confirming at least part of. So just to the degree that I'll verify your track record for any folks who are wondering, that you're consistently out there doing the job of these regulatory agencies. And I know there's that degree to any time you point out something that isn't right out there, there's a lot of people who give you guff about it. But I actually looked up the budget of the CFTC. It was $55 million. God knows how much Department of Justice or SEC, but you're actually doing damage by telling the world, hey, everything's okay, versus hopefully maybe one day they can reallocate the budget to you, who's actually pointing out these things before they happen. So just like to mention that.
Well, the amazing thing to me is that, and Ted Butler is awesome at it too. Ted Butler refuses to go down the conspiracy path also. I love going down the conspiracy path because I know most of them are conspiracies. But Ted does it with their own data. And that is just brilliant, because there's no rebuttal to what Ted's saying about the concentration of silver being manipulative and JP Morgan. It is all in their own data. But the thing is about investigating these companies. To me, yeah, it's kind of hard to dig in and find all the criminality and all that. Imagine if you were a regulator and you had access to all the emails that they write. I could go in as a regulator, I could say, okay, I want all emails, all phone conversations, all text messages, all instant messages that JP Morgan is talking to Citibank, talking to Deutsche Bank about gold and silver. I want them now. Here's a subpoena. My job would be so much easier if I had that information, because it would be right there. Like even the DOJ has released a couple of the text messages or the instant messages back and forth, and they're talking about rigging the markets. Yep. I mean, I can go down and find all kinds of different evidence, but I don't have that stuff. These guys had it in their hands, and they have access to all messages and all communications and all the data they need. And they still refuse to pull the trigger on the criminality in the exchanges. It's going to come and bite them in the ass, because the exchanges are not going to be around very much longer. They're kind of like fiat money. When you lose confidence in them, everybody's going to be trying to get out of these exchanges, the stock market, the bond market, the silver market. The silver market is only a derivative market, because the COMEX is futures and options. And then the LBMA, they say is an exchange. It's not. It's an association. And we know from the volumes that they don't deal in real silver. They're saying over 100 billion ounces of silver are transferred every year. 100 billion out. There's not 100 billion ounces in the world. There's maybe 6 billion, 7 billion, maybe, if you find all the stuff that hasn't been stuck into flat screen TVs or blown up in a smart bomb. So the insanity of exchanges, markets, what we think, why we think prices are determined in certain ways, especially in silver, in gold, in cryptos, and even in the stock market. I mean, you go down to the stock market, they have the same problem, mass rehypothecation of shares. No. And it's being discovered now, and it's like, holy crap. So when you lose confidence, everybody's going to be running out of these exchanges, but where are they going to go? They're going to go gold and silver, the real stuff that's in your hands, and they're going to go with cryptos that are on a blockchain that you can prove that they're yours, not somebody else holding it. I think Coinbase and all the crypto exchanges are not long for this world, because they also have to deal in the fiat money. So if the fiat banks crash, all of a sudden they can't pay their employees. You're stuck in a Mt. Gox style bankruptcy for the next 8 years.
Yeah, and again, I think that touches on why Veritaseum and what it could potentially do is so important. And the last question on that, again, I remember reading the SEC's charges and then reading Reggie's response from his lawyer, which again, I understand I don't have full information yet. If there's someone who can read those two documents and doesn't come away, thinking this seems a little fishy, because they sure had a great response to everything the SEC accused them of, which included misrepresenting things to investors, which made me think, if the SEC was really concerned about misrepresenting things to investors, what about those 2 phone calls that Donald Trump about a month or 2 ago said he received from China on that Sunday night after the trade war was escalating again, which, as I'm sure you well remember, drastically changed the directions of the market, of all the markets that night. We hear no one able to confirm that these actually took place. So, and especially if the Democrats really want, if the Democrats really want to impeach Trump, isn't that a blatant case of market manipulation, what happened that evening?
But that's allowed by both sides. That's the problem. Market manipulation has been, the Democrats demand payoffs for their market manipulation. So you look at the Democrat, like, how did Nancy Pelosi get $100 million net worth? She's been in politics her whole life. She makes, a couple $100,000 a year. Maxine Waters, how does she afford a multi-million-dollar house when she is representing people in the ghetto and has never had a job outside of politics? Where does the money come from? Joe Biden is the one getting the brunt of it now. They find out he took a payment of $900 million. Some barista. It's an oil and gas company. It sounds like a coffee company, if you ask me. But they're all on the side of. They're all on the dole. They're all on the side of keep the system going, no matter how fraudulent it is. And if Donald Trump says one more time, oh, we have the greatest, strongest economy, it sucks, because I love America. I was born on the 4th of July. I am an American guy. And American exceptionalism is only an idea now, because the reality is it's American fraud and American market manipulation. And you read John Perkins's book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and you say, oh my God, in the name of my country, this is allowed to happen. And this all has to change. And the only way to change it, I think, is to destroy the entire system. And I think that's why the derivative bubble was allowed to grow so big.
Well, it is fascinating that it is changing, largely thanks to folks like you who speak up about these things when it's not always easy to do so. So I'm really grateful for what you've done. I know a lot of other folks are too. And perhaps just in wrapping up, you can let folks know where they can find you and stay up to date on all the great things you're doing.
Sure. There's a couple places. YouTube I do a lot on lately, trying to keep people informed. I have a private road that do a lot of private messaging and information. A lot of it has to do with the research I'm knee deep in, because I don't want to really bring it out into the open until I get a good handle on it. But on the private road, I talk about the stuff that I have hunches about and the research I'm doing. And then I also have a Patreon channel as well. It's like $10 a month. So yeah, come check out any and all of them.
And plus, I might add that when you sign up for the private road, if I can get this in front of the camera, Bix has a beautiful silver coin let's pull it out here a second so you can see. That's actually what it looks like. Nice
That's the
message
back.
from
Yep.
Bix.
The front has actually Ruta, the cartoon character, jumping up and down on a silver brick road, a little cave of gold in the Grand Canyon. I've done a lot of research on that. So you get one of those, absolutely. But right now, for the next, I don't know, not very much longer, I'm giving also one Veritaseum token on a paper wallet that's included in the box of silver. So between those two things on the private road, which is $199 a year, I used to give away part of like 20.2 Bitcoin, and now that's 2,000. So in the long run, this subscription will pay for itself. RoadToRuta.com.
Well, and as we talked a little bit about before we started, Bix, you've been part of a book that I'm doing called The Big Silver Short, which really digs into the silver manipulation. You gave a great interview in there, and as one of the small ways I thought perhaps to help out, I believe we're going to do a special where people who sign up for the Road to Ruta private road will also get a copy of the book. So
my people are going to be beside themselves, and I can't wait to read and listen to them. It's audio and written.
We're going to have audio and an actual written book. At some point, I'd like to get a video version out as well. I thought what you shared and what all the other folks shared, it really combines to give such a great overall picture. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but obviously you think it was great because you're a part of it, and your interview was incredible. So
you got the Bart Chilton interview, Ted Butler. I mean, you got some great interviews in that thing.
Andrew McGuire was in there, and he shared some stunning things. It was great. There's analysts, fund managers, really all seeing what you've talked about to your audience for so long about silver, and I think it puts things in perspective in one book, which will be helpful for folks. And when you sign up for the Road to Ruta, you'll be getting a copy of that too. So awesome. That's my thank you to you, Bix. I've really enjoyed all of your videos and the stuff you keep us posted on. So, and it's a pleasure to have you on here today, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
Hey, thank you, Chris.